we start today's class, there is a slight correction that I wanted to share with you from the previous class. And thanks to students who had joined the um, office hours for pointing it out to me. So in the last class, we had looked at the case where we said we have an inverted inverter. Uh, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there we had said that instead of an NMOS, we have a PMOS, and we have kind of replaced them. You remember this example that we had taken?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in that example, I had said that the input would go from 0 to 1, where the output swing B. And the output that I had shown was an inverted kind of an output, which is not really the case. If you look at it, when the input is low, the PMOS would be on. However, it will not be able to take Y to full 0 because it is a PMOS. So the PMOS will be on at a and it will be at a VTP level. And when the input goes to 1, the NMOS will turn on and it will take it to the VDD minus VT.
VDD minus VT.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how the output would look like. I had in the previous class, I had shown it as the other side, which is not right. Okay. So that was a complete moment of unawareness and not so conscious behavior from my side. I'm sorry for that, but this is the way this would behave. And this is the kind of questions that you will typically see in your interviews also. Okay, so you have to be extremely careful there. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now let's go to the presentation then. So what were we doing in the last class, towards the end of the last class? Or what all did we cover in the last class?
Sir, we were discussing pseudo NMOS.
Okay, that was what we were discussing towards the end of the class. What else did we do in the class last time? तो कल ही तो क्विज हुई है शाम को, तो ऑलमोस्ट यू मस्ट हैव रिव्यूड.
Sir, we discussed about combinational circuit, static circuit. In that, we have studied about asymmetric, symmetric circuits and ratio circuits.
I'm sorry, what sir?
The pseudo NMOS, I think we covered in last class.
Okay. Yes, so in the last class we reviewed the static CMOS circuits. We looked at the fact that the PMOS stack, the pull-up network, is a dual of the pull-down network. And we also looked at asymmetric gates, symmetric gates. We looked at skewed gates and methods to reduce the G, or like kind of increase the speed when you have to go for high skew gates and stuff like that. And towards the end of the class, we had started to look at the pseudo NMOS designs. So why do we need to go to any design other than static CMOS?
To save the area, as in static CMOS implementation, the area requirement is slightly large.
Okay, so we say that if the pull-up network and the pull-down network, they are duals of each other. They will both try to give the same output. And if we know that my output is preferentially 0 or preferentially 1, I can do away with one part of the network. And in that case, what we do is we say that, okay, let's go to pseudo NMOS kind of logic, where then we said that, if we go to the presentation, where then we said that there are three kinds of, in ratioed logic, where we said that there are three kinds of loads: a resistive load, a depletion load, and then a PMOS load. And we finally said that the PMOS load is the one that you will probably see in the industry today at some places. And that was what we discussed more. So we were discussing this thing that in a pseudo NMOS design, we are able to get a clear one, but the zero side is dependent on the ratio of PMOS and NMOS drive current. So if it so happens that one of the NMOS is on, then it may happen that only the output may go only like this. Whereas if all the four NMOSs are on, you may see that output may go to full zero. Can you see this? Because this PMOS is always on. This is always driving current. Now, if on the NMOS side just one input is on, the output may not really go to full zero. It may go to somewhere like this. But if all the four inputs are on, A, B, C, D are all one, then the output may go to full zero. Do you see this? Any questions here? Okay. So this was what we had started to look at. This is essentially the same thing where I said that the four inputs are one, then it will go to full zero. If the four inputs are not all one, the output may not go to full zero. Another way to look at it is if I change the ratio of W and N, you know, the PMOS and the NMOS stack, then my output will change. And when the PMOS is very weak in comparison to the NMOS stack, the output will be able to go to zero, whereas in other places it will not be able to go to zero. Are you with me? Any questions here? So what is the biggest challenge when this happens? What is the biggest challenge when this happens?
Sir, our rise delays will be affected.
Rise delay will be affected. When will the rise delay be affected?
Sir, when we are using less width for PMOS, then our rise delays will be badly affected.
Okay, so if I use a large width for the PMOS, then
my functionality will get affected because the circuit will not be able to go to the zero level perfectly.
yeah, but the next stage would still be able to sense that, okay, this is VD by 2, it is lower than VD by 2, so it will sense it as a 0, even in that case.
So noise margin is reducing.
Noise margin is reducing. What do you mean by that?
Sir, that VOL level and VOH level is reducing. No?
So now instead of considering, for example, if my light blue was the curve of consideration, VDD by 2 would be considered as the center point. If my W by LP is 4, then I may want to consider this as a center point. Because if I consider the same VDD by 2 as a center point, the margin for low is very less. Okay. What else? Any other impact? So noise margins degrade in pseudo NMOS. Any other impact? We also saw that if we make the PMOS very weak, that the rise time would degrade. Any other challenge?
So my power increases if I increase my width because now like more current is flowing, so that is going to affect my static power.
So independent of what I keep my width Setu, there is always much larger static power in pseudo NMOS. Even for the first case, where the PMOS is only 0.25, W by L of PMOS is only 0.25, even in that case, that W by L 0.25 is continuously leaking.
Yes, sir.
This is a non-device. So this is not what I desire. So
yes, sir, but
pseudo NMOS you will not see in a low power circuit. This is what that means.
Okay, so then power is no longer concerned to me if I'm going for pseudo NMOS, right?
Yeah, because that is what it means. That power is not a priority, area is the biggest priority.
So moving to bigger PMOS width essentially reduces the impact which you are getting maybe of reducing the area of the PMOS stack completely. Maybe. So again, you're increasing the area.
You may still save area. See, even with this width, if it's a very large pull down network, you may still save area.
Achha.
But if it is such bigger PMOS, the static current that will flow from here will be huge.
Mhm.
So, and your margins are anyways getting impacted. So you're not being as robust, and you're also consuming more power.
Okay. So essentially, power is the challenge which we deal with over here.
Power and even robustness,
Okay. ठीक है.
noise margins. Okay, but you still use these designs at some places where you know that the output is going to be zero for only a very short while.
Sir,
So,
sir, in case of pseudo NMOS logic, can I have a relation with respect to frequency, like it is best suited for low frequency operations or high frequency operations?
no.
So, like what I thought is ki on high frequency, the dynamic power will be the primary concern, and the static power dissipation of both the CMOS logic and this logic is somewhere comparable. So we can say it like this. But at low frequency, the static power consumption of pseudo NMOS is very large, so we cannot use it.
So you can say that at a very high frequency you can use pseudo NMOS. That much you can say, but you cannot say you cannot use it at low frequency, because the clock frequency may be like this, but you may have a self-resetting circuit which would take it to 0 and take it back to 1 at a much shorter pulse duration. It does not wait for the falling edge of the clock. So you cannot really link it to frequency.
So
So for very high frequency, you can say, okay, I know that I'm going to operate at 5 gigahertz. Okay, let's go for pseudo NMOS. Fine. But to say that I cannot use it when I'm operating at 10 kilohertz would also be wrong, because I can use it at 10 kilohertz also, provided I have a self-resetting mechanism there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
so
There was a yes, Swapnil.
so I just had an idea. I mean, like instead of I mean, like I was just thinking out. Like, so let's say we have a PMOS, which like we were saying that PMOS हमारे यहाँ पे continuously is connected to the ground, so it's always on. So we may have some cases where we actually don't want to drive the output always like continuously to one also. So I mean, we can we modify PMOS, sorry, pseudo NMOS in a way, and we like maybe modify it using some kind of a switch parallel to it, or maybe in a series stack or to it. I mean, not the complete PUN network, but just maybe add one another PMOS to maybe a parallel, like some kind of a signal which enables the PMOS, which is grounded always. So I mean, like I was having this wild idea. Maybe it works or not. I mean, if we can maybe control the working of the upper PMOS.
Yes, so that is what we will talk about when we talk about dynamic CMOS in just a little while.
Okay, so I was actually relating it to the pseudo NMOS case. I mean, like you modify
Pseudo NMOS में भी, yeah, pseudo NMOS का भी एक variation है, which we will look in this slide, where we say that the PMOS which is continuously on is very, very small, and there's another signal which goes low, so that during the active period or when I really need the output to be high, and therefore the rise time is taken care of. So if this PMOS was very, very low, then the rise time would be very bad. This would also mean large static power consumption in the next stage. Do you see that? So you do not want bad slopes. So you put an additional PMOS over here. So this PMOS is controlled through an enable signal. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So this is called as adaptive load pseudo NMOS. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So there is another way to improve the load, where you say that I use differential cascade voltage switch logic, where I have all the signals A bar, B bar available to me, and I have PDN1 and PDN2. PDN1 and PDN2 are kind of complements of each other, and you have the latching kind of an operation happening, where if the output of out is 1, then out bar is 0. It will ensure that M1 goes to 1, so that this out one is always held strongly, and since out is 1, this PMOS goes off, so there is no static current going from here, and out bar is held at 0. Okay, so now the benefit of this is that you have PDN networks only, you do not use PMOSs. PMOSs, you would require much larger area. Over here, you don't use PMOSs at all, or as many PMOSs. Suppose your PDN had 12 NMOSs. So instead of now having an additional 12 PMOSs, you have another 12 NMOSs only. So again, you save area and you have complementary outputs available to you. So see, in this logic, you anyways needed complementary inputs, A bar, B bar. So the next stage would need both of them anyways. So you have both the complementary outputs available to you.
So to generate an inverted inputs, you will require extra inverters for that, or how you will generate for the same?
Yeah, initially you will require 2 inverters, but after that, this logic will generate both the complement and the signal within itself, is it not? It is generating out and out bar by itself.
Yeah,
So if I
but it
assume
would
that the
require.
previous stage was also DCVSL, then I would anyways have A and B bar coming from there.
Yeah,
Second for
that
B
I
and B bar.
understood, sir. But don't.
Yeah.
But it would require more area, isn't it? If we are putting
More area than ratio. Yeah, more area than just a pseudo NMOS case. But there's no wastage of power. But the area is also less than static CMOS. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, sir. So our designer, what we must think about saving power or about having lesser area? Which preference you will give?
So you tell me, if you are working on a chip that goes into a space application, what would be your target? Area or power?
So my preference would be area only.
In space
Yeah.
application, your preference will be area? Where will you get the power from in space application? Space applications are severely power constrained. You only
Okay.
have that much, and on a spaceship, you only have a limited amount of solar panel area. And you have so many operations to do inside the spacecraft. There are some chips which anyways are expected to operate at very high frequency, so you cannot do anything about power there.
Okay, sir.
So it is always application dependent. There is no one answer to it. Whereas again, when I'm talking about a chip that goes in your, let us say, cloud server, okay, the chip, to manufacture the chip may cost $10. I will sell it at $100. Even if you increase the area by 10%, I'm not bothered. Give me speed. Okay. Or let us say a chip goes into your pacemaker. Forget about area. I want extremely low power. So there is no single answer, and therefore there is no one way to design. That is where I'm introducing you to all these different ways of designing now. So that these are different ideas that you can utilize based on whatever application you are designing for.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
I actually have a doubt over here. So, like we say that we actually save area because we don't have the PON network, right?
We don't have that PON network, which would typically have larger transistors in it. Yes.
Okay, so actually, I was just thinking that initially, like you had only PDN1, so now you need the complementary of PDN also. So essentially, you have the same number of transistors, though I mean the width might be smaller. That is what you were saying.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. So you save area from a static CMOS, though you have large area only.
Yeah, and so like so if you have the A, B bar, and B over there only in the initial phase only, you're coming. Yeah, actually, we're getting it from somewhere, right? So. So having a separate PDN network would have actually beneficial. I mean, like we could have the A bar and the B bar logic connected in the PDN network, and would that work in a way? So Or
So see what happens. So having the differential output has very significant advantages at the system level. So the disadvantages, you have more signals to route and connect, but the very strong advantage is that now you have differential signals. So even if there is some noise on one side, the
yeah,
other thing can help correct it. Are you able to see this? Even if there is a small spike on out, the out
yeah,
bar will not see that big a spike yet immediately. So the system will again stabilize to 0 and 1.
oh अच्छा, हाँ,
So if you want to make a very so अभी हमने कहा pseudo NMOS के अंदर आपका robustness compromise होता है. What I'm
हाँ,
saying
हाँ,
is that if you go to this kind of a design, because you have differential signaling, you actually have more robustness.
right, right.
Okay. So again, these are all trade-offs. You will finally have to check on your circuit and see which one works best for you. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
A very common place where this kind of logic is used is XNOR and XOR. Yes, please.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Setu.
Yeah, so sir, I just wanted to confirm one thing. In DCVSL, PDN1 and PDN2 should be complementary logic, right?
They should be connected so that they give a complement output. Yes.
No, yeah. So if they are giving complement output, in that means at any given moment either PDN1 is on or PDN2 is on, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, so wanted to ask, suppose that so when we are designing static CMOS, we came up with this fact that the output would always be a complementary type of circuit, right? So it would be NAND, it could be NOR, it would
Dual
not
of
be
each other. Yeah.
NAND.
So we were
Right.
in the static CMOS, we said it would be dual of each other. Over here, we are not saying that.
Okay.
Over here,
Okay.
all that we are saying is that the output should be complementary. Look at this example of XOR and XNOR.
Okay.
So I'm not made a dual of the PDN1, but the output of PDN2 is complement of PDN1. That is what I have ensured.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And this is possible because I have both the polarities of the input also available to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
आगे बढ़े. So this is XNOR and XOR. These gates are typically used or always made in a complementary manner. So implementing an XNOR or gate, XOR or XNOR gate like this can be very helpful. You don't waste area and you can actually have very quick output there. Okay. And this is how the transient response would look like for that kind of a thing. So another kind of, so abhi bhi humne dekho, so when we looked at the pseudo NMOS design, we said there is a full PDN network and as many number of inputs, as many number of NMOSs you need to have. At least this much NMOSs you need to have, then you have to have one PMOS somewhere. This was the minimum that we could go with the pseudo NMOS kind of a design. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So can we do something better? I mean, can we do it still denser? So pass transistor logic is the still denser alternative to pseudo NMOS. Now, what does this mean? This means that instead of putting the entire PDN or something, you apply a switch network. Okay, you apply a switch network, and there is no static consumption involved over here. As an example, if I have to give an output of F equal to AB, I have just two NMOSs there. That PMOS is not needed at all. So I've reduced area further. Are you able to see that this will meet the requirements of F equal to AB?
Not really, sir. I mean, you.
So what happens over here? What is the logic of a AND gate? This is the AND gate. This is
Yes,
the
sir.
truth table of an AND gate.
Yes, sir.
Now, let us check all the four cases. When A is 0, okay, this is 0. B is 0. So anyway, this one is off. So this is on. This means output is 0. When A is 1 but B is 0, again B is 0, this is off. Let this be 1, doesn't matter. But this is off. Output is again 0. Are you able to see this? This is the path that will be active. When A is 0 and B is 1, A is 0, B is 1. B is 1 means this path is off now. This path is on. But now A is 0. So this A will get transmitted to the output and I will have 0. Only when both A and B are 1, I will get the output as 1. So this is an AND gate with only just 2 NMOS. Are you able to see this?
So, but we will need the PMOS, otherwise we're gonna have a VT drop, like in some cases, right? Because obviously, like I cannot have the A as 0, B as 1, and F also as 0, right?
Yeah. So what we are saying is over here we are going to have some VT drop. Fine. If this is going now, if this goes to another NMOS somewhere, will the drop increase? No, the drop will remain as VT. So I can say that my output will only toggle between 0 and VD and VDD minus VT. Can I say that?
So your voice broke. Can you please repeat that? You were saying that it goes to some other NMOS.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, let us say that output of this AND gate was to go to some another NMOS, some other logic, and over there it was connected to the drain. Over there it was connected to the drain part. So
Yeah.
if this is VDD minus VT, this output over here will also be VDD minus VT, because this would be VDD. So there is no additional drop that happens when I go to more number of stages over here. So I can say that my output will not toggle between 0 and VDD. My output will toggle between 0 and VDD minus VT. And as soon as I say that, what happens? I do away with all the PMOSes. I do not need any NVELs in my design, and I save lots of area.
Sir,
Yes.
Sir,
if you get the another NMOS, so I should get the output as VDD minus 2 VT, na, sir?
Why?
Because,
Look at this NMOS. Look at this NMOS. The gate is at VDD.
yes, sir.
The substrate is at 0. This node comes to VDD minus VT.
Yes, sir. So, sir,
It
this
will
was,
transfer full. This will transfer full VDD minus VT to the output.
but sir, इसका अपना भी तो VT होगा ना, sir?
हाँ, तो इसका VT drop होगा ना. इसका VT drop कहाँ से होता है? Why
Sir,
is
if
that
you
VT
connect-
drop coming? Because of the VGS. VGS cannot go below VDD minus VT.
If we connect it to the gate, then two-way VT will come, I think.
Yes. If the gate also had VDD minus VT coming to it, then even if this was VDD, my output would be VDD minus 2 VT. So I have to design carefully. So you have to design carefully. Suppose this was not going over there. This was going to the gate, let us say. Now the output will be VDD minus 2 VT, which is the problem.
sir,
Yes. In fact, अगर
sir,
यहाँ पे VDD हुआ तो वहाँ पे VDD by minus VT आ जाएगा. Yes, please.
sir, in this case, we don't have any static power consumption.
Yeah, not that you see just yet. I will show you cases where there is. But yeah,
But
no
sir,
static power consumption yet.
But sir, in this case also, my gate is also leaking, and ultimately my F output will be driving some other circuits. So static current will always flow in the circuit.
Why? So, okay. So gate leakage so you cannot avoid in any design, na? Can you avoid? So we're not talking about gate leakage यहाँ पे अभी. We're talking about subthreshold leakage. And subthreshold leakage, that too from VDD to ground. Over here, where are you connecting VDD? You're not connecting VDD, you're just connecting a signal here.
But
This
sir,
is not
ultimately
VDD.
signal also
Signal will come
transmit.
from somewhere. Yeah, signal will come from somewhere. But when the output is going to be VDD minus VT, there is no leakage happening. When this is zero, and this is say VDD, then some leakage will happen. But it is still lesser. There's just one
Yes.
NMOS that is leaking, the other NMOS is not leaking.
Yes, sir, that's what I was asking.
है ना? So what we meant by no static power here was not exactly leakage. What we meant by static power in the previous slide was the fact that in a pseudo NMOS, you have static power consumption. We're not talking about leakage there. We're talking about static power. The PMOS is on and the NMOS is also on. Over here, there is no such path.
Basically, the short
meant.
circuit currents.
Yeah, that is what we meant when we said no static consumption. It did not mean no leakage. Okay. There is no short circuit current over here.
Yes, sir.
लीकेज तो होगा ही. लीकेज तो आपने डिवाइस बनाया तो फिर तुम कहोगे जंक्शन लीकेज भी हो रहा है, वो सब तो हो ही रहा है. That you cannot control. That you can already reduce by using lesser number of devices, which you are doing in this case. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
So, as you rightly said, what happens is that my X node over here goes to only VDD minus VT, and to take it to full swing, you actually will have to put an inverter behind further to it. Okay. So you can put an inverter after it so that it goes to a full swing output. Okay. Then another thing that we need to take care of in this case is that if for example you have lots of these, so अभी हमने एक example consider करा जिसमें हमने कहा A is at 2.5, C is at 2.5, and we said B will be at VDD minus 2.5 minus VTN of the device. If I have this output going into the gate of another one, then there is going to be a challenge, as I just discussed in the previous slide. To avoid that, you will necessarily have to put an inverter there somewhere. Okay. So what is also done is that you use a level restorer, जिसको हम dynamic logic के अंदर keeper कहते हैं, उसको हम PTL logic में level restorer कहते हैं. That you have a PTL logic. So यहाँ पे देखो, I'm just showing you a very small one gate kind of a thing. You imagine that there is a very big PTL logic, which you will put a level restorer somewhere in between before it goes to the next stage. Okay, so you have a level restorer added every now and then, so that every now and then you take care of VDD minus VT problem. VDD minus VT problem also leads to what we call as lower noise margin. And as we saw in this previous case, if this was going to a gate and suppose this side was connected to VDD, oh, okay, that is not drawn by me. Suppose this was connected to VDD directly, there would be some static current passing through it. Okay, so anyways, you may want to put some complementary gates and stuff like that, or you will start to see drops of VDD minus 2VT at other places. So to avoid that, you need some level restoring every now and then.
Sir, this inverter was not sufficient that we also did a level restorer then?
It depends. It depends on the fact that this inverter, if this is at VDD minus VT, this inverter will continuously sink current. Is it not? For an inverter, when the input is at VDD minus VT, the NMOS is on because it's more than VT of the NMOS, but the PMOS is also on because it is lower than the VDD minus VT of the PMOS, for the PMOS. So there is going to be a static current there. So
Yes,
with that inverter, you still need a level restorer there.
okay.
Okay, so that you do not have that static current, because यही तो benefit बता रहे थे ना हम PTL logic का, that you will not have static currents. So you need to add those two additional PMOSes somewhere there. But they will not come after every gate. They will come after a lot of logic, and then you restore. You ensure that your internal nodes never go below VDD minus VT logically. Okay, noise की वजह से थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे चलेगा, but logically by design they should not go to VDD minus 2 VT, for example. Before they end up going VDD minus 2 VT, you restore the logic to VDD so that it always remains at between VDD and VDD, between 0 and VDD minus VT, not below that. Okay. So PTL design, PTL logic design is reasonably complex.
So
Because you have to identify which places you need to put this level restorer. Yes.
sir, actually, I had this question like, do we have the flexibility to design the PTL logic for like all kind of circuits, or do we have some limitations for it? Like we had the static case for like you had the all complex gate sort of thing. So do we have some limitations of PTL logic also in a way? Like because you have to have only the NMOS, you don't have any PMOS complementing it. So
See, you will be able to transmit VDD minus VT to whichever place you want to. As soon as you see there is a place where VDD minus VT cannot go, you have to put a restorer.
okay, yes.
Okay. So once that happens, then even finally you will have VDD minus VT available. At the final output, you can always again put a level restorer and say, okay, now my output is going from 0 to VDD. So as such, PTL logic does not have any constraints. In fact, it is very widely used. In very dense circuits, it is very widely used.
Okay.
Okay. If you go for, like if Intel comes for an interview, they can very well ask you about a lot about PTL logic, and because they use PTL logic in their designs.
So, okay, we are just the advantage being that we are saving actually a lot of area.
A lot of area, a lot of capacitance, and therefore a lot of timing.
Yeah.
See, area kam ka matlab, don't assume it to be only area. Area kam ka matlab also means lesser capacitance, lesser leakage, and better timings, because there are lesser connections to make.
True. Yes, sir. Sir, I had a follow-up question also. Like, can't we just have just a level restorer instead of having a gate also? Sorry, inverter also. I mean,
So how will you get the output of the inverter? Like,
I mean,
you need a zero. You need a data dependent zero output, na?
So you connect the X. I'm saying that could we have like connected the X node to the gate of the level restorer maybe? Not having the okay. Sorry.
Nahi hoga na? You need an inverter.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, you have an inverter over there. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
So PTL is a very common design methodology. Mostly, like Intel uses it in a very, very big way. And we'll ask you questions about PTL, especially about this VDD minus VT, and where does the drop go to VDD minus 2 VT, how to avoid that. Such kind of questions you will see in lots of qualifying papers, and you will see such questions even in their interviews. Okay, so this is also something that you should, they're simple things, but you should be extremely careful about calculating where the drop is and what is the kind of drop at different places. Okay. Is my voice breaking for everyone or only for Swapnil?
No, sir.
From both.
Yes.
Okay, it's fine for others. Okay, great. So now how to do the restorer sizing? This is something very similar to what we talked about for the pseudo NMOS case. where we say that if you keep the restorer to be very, very huge, then your output will never be able to go to 0. So you have to do the restorer sizing slightly carefully, but then you can always do it. This is a designer's job, so you will always be able to do it. Okay. Because if the restorer is very big, then you will not be able to write even VDD minus VT, or you will not be able to write 0 on that node somewhere. Okay.
So why can't I write 0 on that node? Because if I write 0 on that node, inverter will convert that to 1 and my restorer will anyways be off.
Yeah, but before you write a 0, this was already held at 0. So this PMOS will not let a good, it will not let the X capacitor discharge.
Oh, okay. So this will overpower it. So I need to keep it very, very small.
Yeah, you have to keep it small enough.
Okay.
Okay, but you can't keep it too small either. बहुत छोटा करा तो फायदा नहीं देगा, आपको स्पीड नहीं देगा, because finally PTL you also want for speed. Okay, so the sizing has to be carefully done. Now another solution is that you use pass gates with VT is equal to 0. So the devices that you use over here, you keep their VT as 0, so that you do not have VT drop. Am I right? So if you can have multiple VT devices, and for PTL you use LVT devices only, or ultra low voltage devices, or let us say devices with VT equal to 0, then there is no question of VDD minus VT drop. VT is 0, so you will transmit VDD wherever you want to transmit. However, if you use such a case, then there could be currents that could flow from one side. For example, this input is 0, this input is 1. You will actually have current going from this path. So these are currents that can start to flow depending on what inputs you give, and this is very, very dangerous. You do not want this to happen. Okay, so I personally am not in favor of using VT equal to 0 devices, because you cannot avoid such stuff too much. But a small VT can be there. Okay. So that when there is this thing as 0, so even if there is leakage, it is still leakage. It is not on current. Okay. So another solution could be to use transmission gates. What do the transmission gates do? So till the time the NMOS is transferring, so NMOS will always transfer a good 0. PMOS will always transfer a good 1. So since you have a PMOS also over here, you will be able to transfer VDD also very safely. Yes, there was a question.
Sir, like when we say about low VT devices, so what is the range of the VT? Like I think 0.5 volts.
And low VT devices can be 300 millivolts VT also. That depends on how you do the gate engineering.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I just want to confirm that how much VT we are saving, like by.
Again, that will be dependent on the technology in which you are operating. If you are with an Intel technology, you may actually have a device with a VT of only 200 millivolts also. For a company that works majorly on low power devices, let us say ST doesn't have server class systems as in its portfolio. ST or TI, for example, may not have devices with that low VT. For them, low VT may be 350 millivolts. So it will depend on technology and the company that you are working with. Okay.
Okay.
So when we use a transmission gate, yes.
So just to confirm on the previous slide, when like the one NMOS was on, so the drop over the NMOS was being compensated by the PMOS, right? So that's why we were having the
yes.
0.
So exactly, this slide is actually just that. So when the input is 0, or when at a point in time your PMOS has more resistance, and at another point of time your NMOS has more resistance. And in both cases, because both the resistances are in parallel, your effective resistance is low through the entire VDD range. The green one. Okay. So we're able to transmit both 0 and VDD very comfortably. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So another answer is to use transmission gates, and a transmission gate based multiplexer may be this small. So okay, a pass gate based multiplexer would be still smaller, but if you use a NAND gates and AND gates based multiplexer, that will look huge. A transmission gates based multiplexer will actually be this small, just these many devices, and that's it. Are you able to see this? And you have no need to put a restorer anywhere, nothing extra needed, but you save lots of area. Okay. Similarly, a transmission gate based XOR gate is also as small. Yes.
So, but in this, even in transmission gate, we will have that leakage problem which we had in single transistor pass gate, right? In which the current can flow from the upper transmission gate, go through some common node, come back via other transmission gate, and go to ground.
Yeah, that problem, Setu, was because we had a 0 VT device there. So see, in that particular case, you're talking about this slide. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So over here, we had said that the devices are 0 VT. So notice, the NMOS over here should have been off. But because it is a 0 VT device, this path became active. If my devices are not 0 VT, then this is not a problem.
Okay.
So by design, you have to anyways ensure that such a path would not exist. And the designer had actually ensured this. But the devices were 0 VT. So it became an error.
Okay, so now I got it. Thank you.
Okay. So a transmission gate based XOR is also very small. Over here, you notice that it is B and B bar that is connected to the instead of VDD and ground. It is not a standard inverter here. Okay. And this is where your output is being taken from. So again, this set of designs, PTL design, transmission gate based designs, they're not as simple as to design as we looked at the static CMOS. Static CMOS is very simple to design. You know that, okay, series में लगाया तो ये हो जाएगा, वहाँ लगाया तो ये हो जाएगा. You always have VDD and ground available to you. Over here, at some place where you would otherwise put a ground, you have to put a B bar. So a little bit more of brain scratching needs to be done. But you finally get much lesser number of devices. Okay. What is a challenge? Okay, I can get very less number of devices. I'm ready to scratch my head to get the design done. What is the thing? Where does it start to fail? Where do you think it will start to fail? Because finally, everyone talks about static design only. आपने आज तक कभी transmission gate design के बारे में तो शायद सुना भी नहीं था.
At high impedance state, when both are off, means
in a transmission gate, both cannot be off, na? Okay, when both are off, so then the output is anyways not connected. That is, so you can, okay, you will need to put some level restorer vagara somewhere. Fine. What else? When else?
And you said that we no need to put a level restorer. So I thought this can be the state.
No. If you have such floating states that are possible, then you will need to, or you will store charge on a capacitor. You will have to refresh it somewhere, sometime. You will have to do something like that then. Where else can this be a problem? See, when I have a long chain of such transmission gates, okay, then what happens? each of these transmission gates effectively has some resistance. My delay can actually go very, very large. I will end up having a very, very large RC network. To still be able to operate at a reasonably good frequency, I will then need to put in some buffers somewhere. Because otherwise, यहाँ से आपने signal दिया, it has to charge all these capacitors through the entire chain. When you put a buffer, okay, this input charges only these capacitances. This buffer charges these capacitances. This buffer would charge subsequently just a few capacitances. And you will be able to get to a better delay. Are you able to see this?
So why was the delay actually greater in the first place? I didn't get that part for that transmission gate.
Why is the delay very large in this in the first case?
Yes, without the buffer.
You tell me what would be the delay for, let us say, these n stages.
I mean, so as like what the problem we said that with transmission gate the delay was larger, right, as compared to the
when the chain of transmission gates, when there's a long chain of transmission gates, the delay will kind of increase very, very, very significantly. Okay, because this R looks to all the large number of capacitances there. So the pehla RC hai, this becomes NRC plus, so it becomes a very large delay.
We talk about a chain of transmission gates, right?
Yes. Therefore, you will, whenever there is a long chain, you will need to put in buffers in between. Okay. And there is a way to optimize it where you can actually arrive at an optimal number of stages depending on the buffer delay. For example, if you say that after every transmission gate I will put a buffer, it doesn't make any sense, because putting a buffer adds its own delay. The benefit of adding a buffer is only if it results in reduction in the overall delay. So the optimal number of stages can also be calculated by a simple optimization problem, by solving a simple optimization problem. Okay. Okay, we will look at those failure. Okay, so there are, with transmission gates, for example, there could be additional failure modes. For example, let us assume A is 1 and B is something, but this output is also shorted or available to be or connected with some other kind of gates also. So what starts to happen is, when you use pass transistor logic or transmission gates, there is always a fear of another output starting to drive your input. Suppose you had put a, बहुत दूर की बात भी नहीं करते, suppose you just wanted to be very sure and you put some level restorer over here, let us say. So what can start to happen is, because your inputs are also connected to the drains and not to the gates. See, in static CMOS, inputs are always connected to the gates. The output can never drive the input. Whereas in this case, there can be leakage paths from output to input also. Or the output can start to drive the input, which has to be avoided. I'm just introducing this concept over here. We will see a much bigger challenge of it when we'll start to talk about latches and flip-flops. And there, when we use transmission gates or pass transistors at the inputs, there's a big challenge that we start to see. Okay, so we will see that in much more detail there. But I thought, since abhi hum transmission gates और उसकी कमियों की ही बात कर रहे हैं, let me just introduce that topic also to you. Okay, we will discuss it in more detail in probably the next or next to next lecture. So sir, now we come. Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt in when you were discussing about solution number 2, which was pass gate with VT 0. Sir, I was thinking if instead of VT equal to 0, I would have taken VT low, for example, 200 millivolts. So then my output swing would be better and there would be no problem which you were discussing. Can this be a solution?
Yeah, that's what we discussed now. That's what I finally said, that I would not prefer to have a 0 VT device there. I would rather have a low VT device. That was there. There was a follow-up question कि भाई low VT का मतलब क्या होता है? In which I had said that okay, for Intel the low VT may mean 200 millivolts, but for ST or TI it may mean 350 millivolts. That was where the point was.
Okay, sir. Okay.
है ना?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so you're on the right track. Even if you missed what I said, you're on the right track. You could deduce it correctly, so I'm happy about it. Okay, so now we come to all this dynamic logic जो हम अभी बात कर रहे थे. When, for example, Swapnil said that, I want just the NMOS PDN there. Can I control the PMOS in a different way so that there is no static path and all that? So that is what essentially is dynamic logic or dynamic CMOS. So in static circuits, where at every point of time, the output is connected to either VDD or GND, in this dynamic circuit, we store some charge somewhere. This is the definition that we saw in the last and the last class also. The benefit of using dynamic circuits is that for a fan-in of N, 2 N gates are required. Whereas in a dynamic logic, you need only N plus 2 gates. So you save a lot of area. Especially because you do not need these N P-type gates. You only need one P-type gate. Okay? यहाँ तक सब मेरे साथ हैं? Any questions still here?
Answer speed has also been increased if it's take care of dynamic circuit, right?
Yeah. The benefits we will just come to. Abhi just definition of what a dynamic circuit is. So you save lots of area. Again, as soon as you save lots of area, capacitances go low, speed also improves. That happens. Okay. So how does a dynamic gate look like, or how does it operate? So first thing is that there are two phases of operation in a dynamic gate. One is a pre-charge phase. You can also call it reset phase. And the other is the evaluate phase. So the pre-charge phase happens when the clock is 0. So when the clock is 0, what happens? The PMOS is on and the output is driven to 1. But in the evaluation phase, when CLK goes to 1, this goes off and the output is now driven by the logic this. Are you with me? In the pre-charge phase or in the reset phase, the output is always 1. Now, in the active phase, evaluate phase, whether I have to discharge out or not is dependent on whatever logic I have implemented in the pull-down network. Is this thing clear to all of us? Any questions here? Okay.
Clear.
Okay. So now there are a few conditions on the output. The first condition is once it has been discharged in the evaluation phase, you cannot do anything to it. It's discharged now. It's gone. Now it will get pre-charged only in the next clock cycle. So very importantly, before the clock comes, all your inputs should be in their final state. Are you able to see this point? That your outputs all your inputs should be stable in a stable final state before the clock arrives. Is this point clear? Hello?
So essentially, sir, you would have to in a way match the rise delay folders of the input and the clocks, basically, in a way.
You have to set up the inputs. So whenever there is a clock and you want inputs to be stable before the clock arrives, we call that as a setup time. So you have to set up the inputs. If you don't set up the inputs and there's a glitch in the input in the evaluation phase, then a spurious discharge of the output can happen and it cannot be recovered now. Okay? So inputs can make only one transition during the evaluation. आपका अगर ग्लिच आ गया बीच में तो आपका आउटपुट करप्ट हो जाएगा, या आपने पहले एक बार 1 कर दिया NAND गेट के इनपुट को, दोनों इनपुट्स को, उसके बाद आप एक इनपुट को 0 भी ले गए. So if you say that it was a NAND gate, okay, let us make it in the form of a dynamic logic. So this is CLK, this is A, this is B. Now let us say initially you thought that, okay, my A and B are both stable at 1. You brought the clock somewhere here. But some other thing happened and A now got evaluated to 0. So now since clock has already arrived, this transition of A is completely ignored. The output has already discharged. It can no longer go to 1. There is no way it can go to 1 because the PMOS over here with CLK is equal to 1 is off. So two transitions, or we can only consider one transition, and the transition whichever has happened at the clock rising edge. Or if at the clock rising edge, let us say, if at the clock rising edge, the input A was 0, after the clock comes, if there is a small glitch here, again the output will discharge and there is no way to recover it. Okay. So this kind of design is, so iska immediate consequence. What is the immediate consequence on noise immunity? It is very susceptible to noise, failures due to noise. Are you able to see this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So dynamic logic, though is very fast, is very dense, we will see it is also susceptible to noise. Then output is stored, like if the PDN is off, then the output is simply being stored on the load capacitance. There's nothing driving the output, it is in the high impedance state. So this is also a problem. Some noise comes, some way this charge from CL gets discharged, there's no way to replenish it. Okay, so these are some of the challenges. These are some of the properties of the output which would lead to challenges for the design of dynamic gates, or challenges to using dynamic gates in your design. Okay, so in terms of properties of the dynamic gates, we already saw the number of transistors is n+2. Output is full swing. It goes from 0 to VDD. There is no challenge in that aspect. And again, just like static CMOS, you are not worried about the ratio of the sizes, the ratio of the sizes of the devices. There is no race condition between PMOS and NMOS and anything like that. So it's, in those terms, sizing is simple and easy to do. And it has much faster switching speeds because the input capacitance is half. There is no half, 1/3. If we say PMOS is always double the size of the NMOS, then input capacitance is 1/3 of a static CMOS. The load capacitances are also smaller because finally the load is also some other gate only. And since you are denser, even the metal run length is smaller. So even those parasitic capacitances are small. And there are no short circuit currents. No, what do you say? No currents because of a direct path between PMOS and NMOS, because it doesn't exist. जो ही आपका clock आया, PMOS goes off, NMOS goes on, and vice versa. Okay, so there is no static current that you need to worry about. So lots of positives around it, but we also saw that there are going to be some challenges that we need to handle when we use dynamic gates. Are you with me? Are you able to see all these benefits of dynamic gates?
Sir, smaller output loading, could you just explain once again?
So could you understand lower input capacitance?
Yeah, sir.
So where does the output of a gate goes to? Another input only, na?
Yes, sir.
So the input capacitances are smaller. So the output capacitances are also smaller. Look at it like this.
Okay.
I have an inverter which goes to, let us say, 4 inverters or 3 inverters, let us say. Now you said, और inverters नहीं कहते हैं, इनको gate ही कहते हैं. There are some complex gates, AND gates हैं, let us say. So now we saw that the input capacitance of the gate has reduced. That is one aspect. So if the input of this gate has reduced, input capacitance of these gates has also reduced. Which in effect means that the output of this gate is also smaller. Output capacitance on this gate is also smaller. So overall power consumption is less.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now I just said overall power consumption is less based on the values of capacitors. But so what we are saying is power consumption is alpha CV square F. We said the C has reduced. V has not changed. Let us say the frequency is also still the same. What do you think will happen to alpha?
It is reduced.
It is reduced?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let us say in my previous, I use static gate somewhere and my input over here is 0. Okay. And now because I'm using dynamic gates, this 0, which is the output of this particular gate, will in the pre-charge phase get pre-charged to 1. In the next cycle, I have not even changed the input. It will get discharged to 0. Again, in the reset phase, it will get charged to 1. I again do not change the input at all. It will go to 0. What is happening? My input has not changed, but with every clock, I am consuming power. In a static CMOS design, this would never happen. If the input is not changing, no power consumption.
But sir, according to this logic, it is okay. What I am thinking is like the switching at the output of the gate is always related to the clock now. So basically, my activity factor will like only be constrained by the clock we are putting on the gate.
So clock ko to activity factor पूरा 1 होता है.
Yes. So like, is it the case that the activity factor is no longer dependent on the inputs? Like
activity factor will still be dependent on inputs. For example, if this was 1, then it remains 1. Nothing happens. If the inputs to this gate were such that the output was 1, then nothing happens. But if the inputs to this gate were such that the output was 0, then you're toggling it unnecessarily every cycle.
Yes, sir.
So in reality, dynamic logic. So यहाँ पे देख के हमने देखा कि power consumption कम हो गया, and we will see this aspect in possibly in a little more detail in the subsequent slides. But in reality, dynamic logic would lead to more power consumption because of this extra activity. Okay.
So
that is the reason dynamic logic is not used very widely, because low power is a requirement everywhere. Yes.
So actually, we say that, okay, I agree that we were saying that the short circuit path will actually be avoided in the dynamic case, right? Because of the clock. So
there's no static current. Let's look at it like this. There's no static current in the dynamic case.
I mean, the current which the connection basically from the grid to the ground rail, right?
Like the pseudo NMOS had.
Yeah. So the thing is, so we were saying that we don't have the last point over here, that there would be no short circuit current. So like, but when suppose the clock is transitioning from like suppose 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, so wouldn't there be a small middle phase where we actually would have some kind of a spike in between, where you might actually have both the networks on at the same time?
Yeah, typically when in dynamic gates, you will see that the logic that you will put in there, that will also need to be evaluated. अगर हम यहाँ पे पिछला example ही लें, so see everything, because it was in pre-charge phase, all these nodes were at VDD.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you take CK to 1. Let us say CK is slowly going to 1 and PMOS is slowly turning off. Okay, it is for the PMOS, this node is still VDD. There is no current, no requirement to sink any current yet. The duration in which this VDD will get discharged to 0, this VDD will get discharged to 0, this VDD will then get discharged to 0. उतनी देर में तो आपका CLK rise कर ही चुका होगा, तो PMOS would be off. Are you able to see this? Okay, if your CLK slope is terribly bad, that all these have discharged to 0 and even then there is some current, yes, then in that case you may see some short circuit current. But over here, your entire logic is in between there.
Okay. So essentially we are saying that essentially what will happen is that till the time my clock signal rises, we will make sure that the PMOS has actually turned off, so we will not have any current from the VDD supply.
Yeah, you do not really need to worry too much about it. It doesn't happen. Usually it doesn't happen because you would use dynamic circuits only where you need very high speed. As I mentioned, it will consume much more power. So you will use dynamic circuits only where you want very high speeds.
Okay. So I get it now. I mean, like the clock के बीच में तो हमारा पूरा network है, so there's nothing.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, as I was saying, power dissipation is usually higher than static CMOS because of higher transition possibilities. Okay, and also because the load on the clock increases multifold. See, in a regular static CMOS, the load on the clock is only of the clock is tapped only at flip-flops, let us say. Whereas in dynamic logic, clock is tapped on every gate. So overall clock capacitance increases hugely. And clock has a lot of activity factor. Clock activity factor is always 1. So a lot of gates start to toggle. Okay, even if the outputs don't toggle, the gates would toggle. And therefore, you observe that in dynamic logic, overall power increases. Okay. And as I just showed in that particular complex gate example, the PDN will start to work as soon as input signals exceed VTN. Okay. So the noise margin is actually low. As soon as the lower NMOS starts to go high, or as soon as there is any glitch anywhere, you will start to see that your output integrity will start to get impacted. So the noise margin in dynamic gates is low. This also we've already just discussed. Okay. And okay, we need a clock, that is understood. So यहाँ तक clear है? Now we will just look at exact problems in dynamic gates and what are the solutions for those problems. Any questions still here? यहाँ तक clear है?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. So as we move forward, let us now look at what other. So अभी हमने कुछ देख ली. What are the solutions to those problems and what other problems exist? So one problem that clearly exists is that if your pull down network is in a high impedance state, okay, if your pull down network is in a high impedance state, then what happens? The output is held only by this capacitor, load capacitor. And in that case, this load capacitor can leak through this stack. So this leakage is a very, very big problem for dynamic gates, because once the clock goes high, there is no way to replenish this CL, and your output will start to appear like this. It will start to fall as soon as your clock goes high. Okay, so how do you think we can solve this problem?
By keeper circuit.
By keeper circuit.
By using a level restorer or a keeper. Okay, you obviously are able to see that this is a very clear solution to the problem. Again, over here we would want to size the keeper very carefully. We would want to keep the keeper sizing to be small so that it does not impact the speed. If the keeper is very large, what happens? It will not let the AV clock stack discharge the CL. It will continuously provide current. So you want the keeper to be very resistive. You just want to handle the leakage of this part when the output is in high impedance mode. Okay. So dynamic gates के अंदर you will typically see जहाँ भी dynamic gates use हो रहे हैं वहाँ पे keeper लगाना ही है. There is no other way. The keeper will be there. Okay. Now,
Sir?
yes.
Sir, can you quickly please go over the working of the keeper once? Like how exactly is it helping us? I mean, I know the usage, but exactly the working.
So as soon as your output goes, so let us say that your clock came.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Your clock came, so this PMOS went off.
Sure. Yeah.
This was precharged to 1.
Okay. Yeah.
This was precharged to 1 means this was output was 0, out bar was 0.
So the PMOS was
means
on.
This PMOS was on. So now even if even if A, B and CA, like now CLK is 1, but let us say A was let us say B was also 1, A was 0. So there is leakage happening through this. Even when the leakage is happening, the keeper is able to provide for that leakage, and your output remains stable.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, just a small doubt in this.
Yes.
Sir, when you are saying that here, when a clock was 1, so our upper PMOS was off, but this NMOS was on, so we should get a 0 over our output, right?
दोबारा से बोलो. हाँ, output was 0. Yes.
Yeah. So
out
sir,
bar was 0. Yes. This is out bar.
Yeah. Before that, I'm talking about the output at a capacitor. Okay. So there you would get 0, but you have written right now 1. You have written for
when
that.
When will out be 0? In the pre-charge phase, CLK is 0.
Yes,
so this
sir.
is off. This is on. It will charge the out node to 1.
Yes, sir. Yes,
when this is out node is pre-charged to 1, out bar will be 0. This keeper will be on.
Yes, sir.
So it means this node is held at 1. It is kind of half latch. Do you see? This is a half latch.
Yes, sir.
So due to this half latch, the output will be held at 1. If my inputs are in such a combination that when CLK goes to 1, even then the output is not supposed to discharge, this half latch will maintain it to 1 and take care of any leakage that is happening through one of these gates.
Yes, sir.
So आपने 0 कहाँ देखा? मैंने आउट पे तो कभी 0 की बात ही नहीं करी अभी.
So previously you just switch off that upper PMOS.
I just switched off this upper PMOS. Okay. The PMOS is off. It is no longer driving 1 over here, but this keeper is on. There's nothing to take it to 0, na?
Clear.
Okay. आगे बढ़े?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, another problem that plagues dynamic gates is what is called as charge sharing. Now, let us say clock goes to 1 and I have these CAs and CBs there and there is some toggling happening. What happens? The charge on C will share between CA and CB. Okay. And this can again reduce the level of voltage at the output. And this looks simple here, but look at a complex network like this. Okay, so this is, I'm not sure, we can estimate what gate is this. Let us say this is a XNOR 3. Okay, Now in this particular gate, what happens? As soon as your A or A bar toggles, the charge will start to travel all over the place. So many parasitic capacitances all over the place, and your output can actually go to a low value. So what do you need to do? You need to ensure that there is a level restorer or a charge redistribution. There is a level restorer on these intermediate nodes also. So अभी तक हमने जो पहले बात करी थी, हमने कहा था कीपर खाली इस नोड के लिए चाहिए. हाँ, but charge sharing can be a big problem, and therefore you may want to keep such keepers even at these intermediate nodes. Are you able to see this?
So can you
Sir?
please explain?
Okay. Let us say that when your CLK went to 0.
Yeah.
Let us say the case when your CLK went to 0, what happens? This would get pre-charged to VDD.
Yeah.
Let us say A is 0. Let us say A is 0. Okay? So this is 0. So this is off. A bar is 1. So this is on. This is on means it is able to charge this capacitance. So this capacitance is pre-charged to VDD. However, since A is 0, this capacitance is no longer pre-charged to VDD. This could as well be at 0.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, there are other capacitances there also which could be at 0 or 1 depending on what are the inputs.
Yes, sir.
Can happen. So now what do we say? Now let us say clock comes. Clock comes means this is no longer driven to VDD. This device is off and this device is on. Clock comes, this is no longer driven to VDD, and now you toggle A. When you toggle A goes to 1 now, A bar goes to 0. A bar के नीचे वाले तो already pre-charged थे, यहाँ वाले pre-charged नहीं थे. So what happens? The charge that was stored on this capacitor will redistribute itself onto the other capacitors.
Oh, okay.
And you will see a dip on the output. And this charge distribution is a much bigger problem because this is a lot of charge that will be sunk in than the leakage. It may happen that the small resistive keeper that you put will not be able to handle it. It can happen, very well happen. Okay. So what is required is that at these intermediate nodes, you also need to put these keeper kind of circuits. So now it may be difficult to imagine where would such a circuit appear where there is such huge capacitances there. I can tell you that in memories, for example, when we implement address decoding through dynamic logic, so Rohit and the team can possibly appreciate, you will see that there are nodes. So this is word line, and there are these vertical lines. These nodes will have capacitances of the order of 120, 150 femtofarads. Okay, even more than that. Okay, and over here you have a dynamic gate ka clock wala PMOS, and you have some NMOS, and this node is like this. So there is an input A coming here, and this node is like this. Okay. So now as soon as clock goes and this A toggles, if you have not pre-charged this node, this large vertical line separately, you will see spurious word line selections there. So it does not appear. So अब यहाँ पे मैं आपको वायर्स नहीं दिखा रहा हूँ, इसलिए आपको लग रहा है कि इसमें इतनी सारी कैपेसिटेंस कैसे आएगी. But in reality, when dynamic gates are made, they are made in such a way that they are also made in such a way that there could be large capacitances in between. Okay, and one has to be extremely careful that those large capacitances are also pre-charged. Okay.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, we were discussing this example and we were not really certain कि हमारा exactly कौन सा charge अभी charge होगा, right? I mean, like it could redistribute everywhere, right? So do we like put the keeper circuit in all the intermediate nodes, or we selectively do that, knowing?
So it depends on your design, Swapnil. If these capacitances, wherever you have large capacitances of the same order, so if this was 50 and this was just 1, I would say you don't need a keeper.
Okay, essentially being that कि उससे इतना फर्क भी नहीं पड़ेगा, मतलब अगर डिप होगा तो
हाँ, क्या पड़ेगा, कितना चार्ज शेयरिंग होगा. बट इफ इट इज ऑफ द सेम ऑर्डर, जैसे 15 है और वहां 50 है, इट इज 1/3, तो आपका चार्ज काफी सारा शेयर होने वाला है. इनफैक्ट जो मैंने आपको ये मेमोरी का एग्जांपल दिया, वहां पे शायद ये 5 होता है और ये 150 होता है.
अच्छा, हाँ ठीक है.
Because that is just one small gate somewhere. वहां पे खाली 5 फेम्टोफैरेड का कैपेसिटर है लोड पे. But this huge line that is going in between has a capacitance of 150 femtofarads.
Okay. So essentially, when we say like we are refreshing a capacitor in DRAM or something, is it essentially the work of keeper circuit? Is that the
DRAM पे मत आओ अभी. DRAM पे मत आओ. Don't get confused. We are only talking about dynamic logic. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm giving you one example जहाँ पे इतना skewed ratio भी होता है 5 and 150. इन्होंने एक फिर भी balanced example लिया. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you have these intermediate nodes which have large capacitances, and the messages, whenever you have intermediate nodes with large capacitances, charge sharing can be a failure mode. Always keep those keepers and level restorers on those nodes also. Okay, that is the message. If this capacitance was very small, 1 femtofarad, I will not even bother about it. Okay, so I think we will stop here. There are other things, other limitations of dynamic gates, which we will look in the next class then.
Sir?
Yes.
सर, जैसे आपने चार्ज शेयरिंग का एग्जांपल दिया कि इसमें नीचे वाले जो कैपेसिटर्स हैं वो भी उनको भी चार्ज डिस्चार्ज करना पड़ेगा, तो हमारा कीपर जो है वो सब इंस्टेड ऑफ हम सबके लिए कीपर लगाएं, हमारा जो मेन कीपर है आउटपुट पे उसी को हम स्ट्रांग बना दें. तो
अगर उसी को स्ट्रांग बना दोगे प्रेयर्स, तो प्रॉब्लम ये होगा कि आपका जो लैच है, जो उसका लैच का फीडबैक है, दैट विल बी वेरी स्ट्रांग. योर फॉरवर्ड डिले विल बिकम unacceptable.
Okay.
So instead use a small keeper somewhere else also, na? What's the big problem?
Okay, sir.
Instead of making one large keeper, use small keepers elsewhere also.
Okay,
if this is such a huge node, if this is such a huge capacitive node, it means that there is much area it is covering. There will be some space somewhere to put a keeper there. Don't worry.
नहीं सर, मेरे को लगा था कि जैसे इस वाले एग्जांपल में बहुत सारे कैपेसिटर्स थे, तो हम सपोज करिए W/2 के हम 5-6 कीपर लगा रहे हैं सारे कैपेसिटर्स के लिए, इंस्टेड हम जो हमारा मेन कीपर है उसी के वेट 5 या 6 कर दें.
So they could be physically far apart. These capacitances could be physically far apart also. So you actually do not make one keeper very large. You instead use multiple smaller keepers.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, your forward delays will start to challenge you. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So we'll stop here. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Happy Diwali, sir.
Happy Diwali. Yes. This is important. Happy Diwali to all of you.
Happy Diwali.
Have a cracker free, no crackers. Safe Diwali. Plant trees this Diwali. Do a affirmative action. Plant trees this Diwali. Give trees to your relatives and friends this Diwali. If you want a link, I will share you a website where you can plant trees. Okay? Happy Diwali. Have a safe Diwali and a proactive good one. Okay? All the best.
Hello.
Yes, Ritik.
Sir, as I mail you, sir, we can discuss the project right now.
Yes, we can discuss. I will just switch off the recording.